races in one. First, you must win the race against a flash of light. Then, with 4,000 horsepower at your back, you must beat your opponent. 5 seconds later, win or lose, your race is run. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. While the rest of the country basks in midsummer heat, the IHRA has come north within 70 miles of the Canadian border for round 4 of the 1990 World Championship at the 3rd annual Tosti Spumati Empire Nationals. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with ESPN drag racing analyst Ted Jones, welcoming you to New York International Raceway, where, Ted, these 3rd annual Empire Nationals are really the first in quite a while.
A long time, Bob. The International Hot Rod Association originally came here when the track was first constructed in 1970. We returned again in 1971, and then the track was closed down, out of business. Now the track has reopened. The IHRA has returned for the Empire Nationals once again, a 3rd annual, but it's been about 20 years.
And no one delivers a better preview of what we're likely to see in the eliminations than Brett Kepner. Let's meet him now.
At this point in any season of IHRA drag racing competition, the main concern is the war for the World Championship, the points races. And here at the Tosti Spumati Empire Nationals, the first event at this track in some 18 years, the points races are the main stories in every one of our pro categories. In Top Fuel Eliminator, Jack Ostrander has a chance to move into the World Championship points lead because Richard Holcomb's Top Fuel dragster from Georgia could not appear due to engine damage done in his runner-up finish in St. Louis. In Pro Stock Eliminator, it's another war. Tommy Mooney, the chassis builder, Harold Denton, Tim Neighbors, they're all involved in that. And in Nitro Funny Car Eliminator, less than 1 round of competition separates the man who finished number 2 last year, Doc Holliday, from the man who dominated the beginning of this season, Chuck Etchells, and his brand new Future Force Trans Am. That's the main concern, the battle for the World Championship. And whoever comes out on top of this one will lead going into the last stretch. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Brett. Here are the weather conditions we talked about. The temperature expected to get cooler as the evening goes on. 65% humidity, 50% chance of rain, and we've had sprinkles on and off all weekend. Our ESPN coverage of the Empire Nationals is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Firestone, tires that meet the test. Don't forget, one of our viewers will win a beautiful 1957 Chevy Bel Air from Dan Chuck Manufacturing in California. Keep pencil and paper handy for the secret IHRA race word. Send it to Box 3029, Bristol, Tennessee, 37625. 1 entry per family per show. The word is coming up later in this broadcast. Coming up next, the ultimate Saturday night special, the traditional IHRA final round qualifying at the Night of Fire. Stay with us. Welcome back to the International Hot Rod Association Empire Nationals in Leicester, New York. Bob Varsha, Ted Jones, and Brett Kepner with you. Of course, every Saturday night means but one thing on the IHRA trail, the Nichols Night of Fire. Now, compounding the problems for the engine tuners, not only do they have a raw racetrack to deal with, they also had much lower temperatures on Saturday night with a rainstorm approaching, and that means higher air pressures as well. In Pro Stock, in the left lane, Ricky Smith, the 5-time IHRA world champion, set low ET of the meet.
Low ET indeed, number 1 qualifier with a 7.30 by a bunch. Number 2 was only a 7.36.
And as far as top speed goes, Billy Ewing from Georgia way got his Oldsmobile up and running.
Watch the big 723 cubic inch Olds down on the top end. He cranks out a 189.75 mile per hour speed.
On to Top Fuel, where in the left lane, Eddie the Thrill Hill makes his first IHRA appearance in 2 years, but in the right lane, Michael Brotherton got up to top speed.
Brotherton turned in a very impressive 266.39 to have the top speed in qualifying.
And a good reaction time as well. Brotherton having no problems with his very green racetrack, nor is the man in the right-hand lane here, Gene Snow, the 2-time Top Fuel world champion and number 1 qualifier here.
The Snowman's back on top on the IHRA trail, a 5.19 elapsed time to set a new track record and low ET in the event.
Now, unfortunately, shortly after, the thunder of nitro-burning engines was replaced by Mother Nature's own. Look at the storm that moved over New York International Raceway Park.
Well, the Nitro Funny Cars didn't get their opportunity to run in the Nichols Night of Fire. As this mess started moving in, it had torrential downpours, hail, and everything, Bob.
But it cleared off in time for eliminations. We'll be back with quarterfinal action from the Tosti Spumani Empire Nationals. Welcome back to Leicester, New York, and New York International Raceway Park for the International Hot Rod Association Tosti Spumani Empire Nationals. Our first quarterfinal action will be in Pro Stock, and our first matchup is a good one. The numbers 2 and 3 performers from 1989, Tim Neighbors and his Lawrenceville, Georgia-based machine, up against Snellville, Georgia's pride, Billy Ewing.
It'll be Oldsmobile against Camaro in this Hall, Georgia battle, as Tim Neighbors, who's on a roll, would like to drop Billy Ewing off.
Neighbors comes into this event number 3 in points thus far in 1989. Ewing has slipped to number 5, but both ran strongly in the first round. A 7:45 for Neighbors, 7:47 for Billy Ewing.
Both cars staging very carefully. Now they're ready, Bob.
Neighbors in the left lane gets a little to the driver's right, but gets it straightened up. They are side by side. This is a drag race.
Oh, what a drag race. Tim Neighbors pulls it out with a 737, 188 miles per hour. We've got to look one more time at how close this was right at the finish line.
You've had some close races in your life. 737 for you, 738 for Billy Ewing. The TSI timing computer shows a 0.000 win margin, less than a thousandth of a second.
I knew he was right there. I seen him all the way. I was just hoping it would be me, but I didn't know till we got here.
It will probably be the closest race we've ever had on IHRA ESPN coverage. It was less than a thousandth, like I said.
It was a real good run. It's hard to outrun, Billy.
That puts you in the semifinals, and I know this is a big one in points, so good luck.
Thank you very much.
Our next matchup will introduce the dominator in Pro Stock this year, Tommy Mooney, in the near lane from Shelby, North Carolina, up against Virginia's Jim Yates.
This race is really important, and Yates has broken. Tommy Mooney will move into the semifinal. He's already leading the point, so that becomes a very important break. Tommy Mooney with a 7:35.
Now let's find out who he will meet in the semifinals. We will see Doug Kirk from Kermit, West Virginia, against Harold Denton out of Middlesex, North Carolina, in the Party Time Pontiac.
Well, this is the world's fastest Pontiac. This guy could fly. He's capable of really running with that huge cubic inch engine in there. Denton is number 2 in the points, so it's very, very important that he move into the semifinals so that he can stay right up with Mooney on a round-for-round basis.
It won't be easy. Kirk is number 4 in points, and Denton gets a horrible start. Kirk just moves away and extends his margin to the finish.
Well, look at the reaction time on Harold Denton. The 7:52 sounds more like an ET, so this will be an easy win for Kirk, almost a gift from Denton.
Our next matchup will be Ricky Smith, the 5-time world champion and the busiest man at the track. Brett has more.
Just about everybody is familiar with the bright blue and orange colors of 5-time Pro Stock world champ Ricky Smith's STP Trans Am. And, of course, it's here at the Empire Nationals like it always is. But when you walk over to Ricky Smith's pit area, things get a little confusing this weekend. Also, along with that Jerry Bickle's race car Trans Am, is this incredible, identical, brand new 1991 Jerry Bickle race cars Trans Am that is also an STP-sponsored machine. Ricky Smith is running 2 machines this weekend. Now, in the IHRA rulebook, you're not allowed to run any more than 1 car in a professional class. However, there's nothing in the rulebook that says you can't run a pro car and a sportsman car. So Ricky entered the brand new Jerry Bickle Trans Am in Top Sportsman Eliminator. And believe it or not, he's number 1 qualifier in Pro Stock and in Top Sportsman. It's about as good as it gets for the 5-time world champ. Ricky, it's got to be hard on not just you, but the crew to campaign 2 complete operations here this weekend.
It's pretty tough, Brett. We got a brand new car here, and we want to test it to get ready for the end of the season with it. And, you know, with a brand new car, you set different in it. I got to be real comfortable in a car to drive it, so I'm just going to take this car and take my time and get used to it, and then I'll bring it into eliminations, you know, in Pro Stock.
What's the difference between the old car and the new chassis?
Well, nothing really, you know. We just build a new one just to, you know, just to see if it's a little better or something, you know, but I'm setting just a little different in it, so, you know, till I get comfortable in it, you know, we're not going to run it, you know, in eliminations with Pro Stock, but it won't be but a race or 2 down the road and you'll see it out.
Aren't too many people out there that can give their sponsorship double service like that either.
Well, you know, it's just glad we can do it, you know, and this, you know, this STP deal for me has just been outstanding this year. And, looks like everybody's pretty happy, so hopefully they'll stay with us next year and on down the road.
Well, if last night's performance in the ARP Quick 8 is any indication for Ricky, I think STP will stay with him. He managed to step up and win, Bob.
First driver to qualify number 1 in 2 classes. It'll be Smith on the left, Carlton Phillips on the right, and Phillips red light. Ricky Smith gets the bye run here.
You saw that telltale red light. I don't know if Ricky knows he red lighted or not. He's running it all the way through. Look at the EG, a 7:29, 189 miles per hour for Ricky Smith. He was really on a run.
Well, despite the fact that Carlton Phillips was the number 9 qualifier, he had to try to beat the tree, and he missed it by a little bit. Here's Ricky.
Yeah, it's just another day at work for Ricky Smith, I know. 7:30 in qualifying, 7:30 in the first round. Now you decided to really intimidate people and go 7:29, 189. New track record, the first 7:20 run since Darlington.
Well, I didn't see him red light, and I said, man, I just kept pulling the levers, and I said, boy, if he didn't red light, I ain't beat. Now,
he did take a shot on the tree and then missed, obviously.
Just luckily for me, because he was out there, and I just kept pulling the levers, and I said, I hope he red light. It made it. This car is just making a good run.
And it better have some more. In the next run, Smith will go up against Tim Neighbors. Smith will have lane choice by virtue of the better ET, and Tommy Mooney will have lane choice for his semifinal run against Doug Kirk. Coming up next, quarterfinal action from the Nitro Floppers. The funny cars are up next from the Empire Nationals. Welcome back to the International Hot Rod Association Tosti Spumati Empire Nationals. Bob Barshett, Ted Jones, and Brett Kepner with you from north central New York State, where the nitro-powered funny cars are about to take to the track. These are the guys who missed out on their final round of qualifying due to a big storm during the Nichols Night of Fire, and as a result, they've missed an opportunity for precious tuning on this very green racetrack. Our first matchup will be Richard Hartman, whose car was burned to the ground at Bristol, Tennessee this year, and the fans are just delighted to have him back. He'll be going up against the son and the father-son Litton family. This is Steve Litton.
Well, Richard Hartman, a relatively inexperienced driver, and now he's got more experience, at least in firefighting, in the Ray Vestas Nick Bonafonte-owned Pontiac. He'll be staging the car up very carefully. 2 very inexperienced drivers, and this matchup is from the middle of the field. These are the number 4 and 5 qualifiers. So really, anybody could win this round, Bob.
And Hartman desperately needs to. Litton ranked number 8 in points coming in. Hartman is unranked after missing 2 IHRA national events. So there's plenty on the line here for 2 great young funny car drivers. Litton in the left lane, Hartman in the right lane. Litton stages first. Both cars get away cleanly, but Litton's got a big problem. He is sideways on the racetrack.
Well, a very easy win for Richard Hartman, 5.68, but we've got to have a look at the driving job done right there by Steve Litton. The young, inexperienced driver doesn't look like he has too much inexperience to me. He finally shut it down, and how he kept it out of the guardrail, I don't know.
Great driving job for Steve Litton. Hartman moves on, and we come up with our next pairing. The Black Magic Machine of D.A. Santucci from Glen Willard, Pennsylvania, up against Jerry Caminito from Jackson, New Jersey.
Well, Caminito has them all talking to themselves up here in New York. He turned in a brilliant 567 to pick up the number 1 qualifying position this weekend. So everybody's wondering, what's Jerry doing? What's his new secret? He's got that Blue Thunder really huffing.
The number 1 qualifier against the number 8 qualifier. Santucci, about the only guy that was happy to see that storm move in last night, gets a little squirrely off the line, but Caminito breaks something at mid-track, and Santucci takes the win.
Oh, what a Cinderella win. D.A. Santucci, a 5.99, but I'll guarantee you he can take it any way he'll get it.
Take another look. How many times can the lead change in a racetrack? Santucci got the whole shot. Caminito passed him. Caminito broke. Santucci wins the race.
Well, fortunately, Dominic Santucci stayed in it and didn't lift after he went up in smoke, which is unusual. Meanwhile, Brett has him down on top end.
Well, Brett, that was given to me. Jerry's a heck of a running competitor, and he should have had that race. Something happened to his car.
It sounded like a supercharger explosion for me.
Yeah, well, I think we just can get this track figured out. It would be all right. The car's been running real well, and we just got to get it figured out. I think Jerry gave me that one. I got to go thank him.
Well, while he does that, we'll move on to the next round. Here is Chuck Etchells from Woodstock, Connecticut. One of the great names in the class this year. Already once a winner, getting a lot of smoke out the front of that car during the burnout. In the left lane is Al Hoffman from Umatilla, Florida.
Well, I'll assure you, Chuck Etchels, who is number 2 in the points, really needs to take this win right now. He actually has his eye on that World Championship. He's making a serious bid for it on the IHRA circuit this year. So this crew's going to be all business right now.
And very careful about their burnouts. As we mentioned at the top of the show, there is not a lot of rubber down on the track. You saw Al Hoffman's car. He'll be on the left. Etchels on the right. Etchels stages first. Deep staged he did. Both cars away, and Hoffman smokes right off the pad.
Hoffman shuts it down. Etchels will stand in it to try and get lane choice. He comes up with a 5.78. Not bad, Bob.
So Etchels will move on to the next round. And we'll find out who he will meet in that next round now. As Tom Hoover comes smoking off the line in his Nitro Funny car, he'll be going up against fellow Minnesotan Doc Holliday, the #1 points man in Funny Car.
Well, Etchels won his round. The doctor has to know it. He was sitting back there in the staging lane ready. So the pressure is on the doctor right now to maintain that points lead. He's got to match him round for round.
Doc Holliday, the winner of the last IHRA round, the Gateway Nationals, and this is going to be one of the most colorful matchups we've seen. Two incredibly beautiful race cars.
Both cars are pulling up staged and ready to go right now.
Very quick start and very even. Looked like Hoover maybe got the jump, but Doc Holliday puts the fender in front of him and loses the advantage. It's Hoover.
Wow. What a close race. Doc Holliday lost that on reaction time. He went a 5.72. Hoover wins it with a 5.74, 259 miles per hour. And we'll look one more time just to show you how close it was.
11 thousandths of a second between you at the finish line, the big upset.
That was close. Doc and I are great pals and old friends, and we always put an old funny car fight at each other. And
the crosstown Minneapolis rivalry.
South side, north side. Here we go. It's my turn, Doc.
I'll tell you this. You just opened a big door for Chuck Etchels. They were less than a round apart in points. So now Etchels moves into the leads, and that's who you've got next round.
It'll be a great race. I'm looking forward to it.
See you then.
Thank you.
And you better believe his old buddy Doc Holliday is going to be pulling for Tom Hoover, who has lane choice over Chuck Etchels in the semis. Richard Hartman will have lane choice over D.A. Santucci. When we come back, it's time for the Slingshot. Top Fuel Dragster, starring Eddie the Thrill Hill and the Snowman. Stay right there. Welcome back to New York International Raceway Park, the newest strip on the International Hot Rod Association Championship Trail. The big crowd on hand today, and Brett Kepner has more on this new track and the man who made it possible.
New York International Raceway Park is without a doubt a beautiful racetrack. Here in northwestern New York, the scenery itself is gorgeous, but this racetrack is quite different than most in this area. It's a beautiful facility with tremendous amount of shutdown area, an extremely strong starting line, lots of spectator facilities. It's just a beautiful racetrack. But what a lot of people don't realize is the incredible heritage behind this facility. In the late 1960s, the original Empire Dragway was built. Campaigned 2 national events in the early 1970s, one of which was the very first IHRA Empire Nationals. But in 1973, what used to be Empire Dragway went bankrupt. It sat for almost 15 years doing nothing. Indeed, in 1986, dilapidated, torn apart, generally just laying here completely destroyed, Empire Dragway was picked up and created into a personal dream effort by owner Bob Metcalf. It's truly one of the great American success stories in motorsports.
I used to race here, or not race, crew member for my 2 bosses who were very heavily into drag racing. And I came out to this facility every Saturday night when it was operating. I remember seeing the 1972 Empire Nationals. I was here and really thoroughly enjoyed myself. I always believed that there was a lot of potential in the facility if it was managed right. I proceeded to find out who owned it and what I had to do to purchase the facility.
Well, you aren't a bank president or anything. You didn't come into this with a big budget. How did you go about purchasing the property?
The funds that I was able to acquire, I worked at Eastman Kodak, did not have a lot of money behind me. I was able to acquire them through credit cards.
Strictly credit cards got you this property?
Strictly credit cards.
Well, once you acquired the property, like I said, all you had was a rundown piece of property. Every single thing here needed repair. How did you go about doing that?
I actually lived at this facility in a small camper trailer for 3 months, solid, working very hard with my brother-in-law, Dave Barnes, who also took a month leave of absence from his job to come out and help me. And we were able to get this facility ready to race in a little less than 3 months.
Trees growing through the grandstands. Everything was overgrown. The asphalt was in poor shape. That's a lot of work for 2 people.
we also have very dedicated racing clientele that comes here. A lot of the racers came out, pitched in their help on the weekends. Every weekend we'd have 20, 30 people out here working with us, and they're responsible even this weekend for making sure that this facility was able to bring in a national event.
What do you want to see more than anything else from this racetrack in the future?
I would like to see continued national events through the next decade. And beyond that, I would like to see VIP accommodations, new timing towers, state-of-the-art equipment, everything that's available to the racers out there.
Well, based on what Bob Metcalf has accomplished thus far, don't put it past him. This place is going to be a show place someday. Our first quarterfinal matchup in Top Fuel will be Paul Smith from Putnam, Connecticut, racing a car fielded by funny car driver Chuck Etchels. He'll be going up against the number 4 man in points, Michael Brotherton from Kingston, North Carolina.
Well, Brotherton and Smith very close in the points. Brotherton should win this if you look at their qualifying. Brotherton qualified with a 5:34. Smith could only muster up a 5:41, but he's a part of that important Chuck Etchels team. And you can bet the Etchels team has been working on this thing overnight.
And Brotherton has not had an easy time of it here. He had to go through the bleach blocks and do 2 burnouts in qualifying in order to get his tires up to temperature. He's really been struggling with the combination on this very raw racetrack. There's a close look at him with the shade.
And we saw previous to that Paul Smith pointing down something was wrong, something that he did not like inside that engine compartment. Very quickly, I think Chuck Etchels himself ran over there to take a look, but they're both going to stage. Evidently, they're ready to race, Bob.
And now the psych job of staging. Each car inching forward in turns. They both stage. They're away. Good start. Little tire smoke from the left lane of Smith's car, but he holds his advantage to the finish.
Paul Smith pulls out the win with a 5.30, 256 miles per hour. He's picked it up about a tenth of a second over his original qualifying time.
The ETs have been hard to come by for the Top Fuelers, but the speeds are creeping up and the times are creeping down. Our next matchup will be Wayne Bailey, number 7 in points, going up against the Thrill, Eddie Hill from Wichita Falls, Texas, making his first IHRA appearance since 1988.
Eddie Hill holds the current IHRA speed record, which still remains unbroken at 288 miles per hour.
Another good pair of starts, but Bailey quickly loses traction. Eddie, the Thrill Hill, pulls it off.
Eddie with a 5.25, 265 miles per hour. He's got that thing flying.
Now here's a bird's eye look at the burnout for John Diesel Carey. You've heard of onboard cameras. This is on the wing, looking down on the car, the engine, the driver, and even those 2 big slicks at the bottom of your picture.
Gary backing the car up now. This gives you some idea of what the driver might be seeing, although he's down behind that motor, but you can see how long that Top Fuel car appears.
And here is his opponent, Fred Farndon from Columbus, Ohio. Number 3 in points is Carey. Number 6 is Farndon.
Or as Don Garland would say when he talks on the PA at these events, this is Freddie Farndon driving Fred Pfeiffer's car number 444.
Traditional big bicycle wheel style front ends on these cars. Carey the last to stage. They're away, and Farndon breaks right off the line. Carey will have a walkover.
John Carey moves into that next round with a 5.29, 260 miles per hour, so he's all set up to meet Mr. Hill, who ran a 5.25.
And he fires a shot across Hill's bow with a 5.13 reaction time. That's the best we've seen in quarterfinal action in Top Fuel thus far. Here's another look at the left lane as parts come flying off of Fred Farndon's car right at the pad. We'll move on now to our 4th and final quarterfinal matchup. This is the Snowman, the 2-time IHRA World Champion, Gene Snow, who has really given the field a warning. And here's his problem with Jack Ostrander. In the other lane, puts his hands palms up. He may have a problem.
He's trying to communicate with hand signals with his crew chief. Something was wrong, and he was asking what's going on. But at any rate, looks like they're getting ready to stage. Now, Gene Snow, in this particular instance, can also be known as the spoiler, because Jack Ostrander is number 2 in the points.
And you could tell Ostrander was right. He knew he had a problem. It is Snow in a walkover.
Gene Snow, look at the T522, 267.54, and he's still not going to cut anybody any slack. Bobby ran a 5.09 reaction time.
Well, Snow really has this dialed in, a tenth of a second faster than anybody in the field. He'll have lane choice over Paul Smith in the semis. Eddie Hill will have lane choice against John Carey. We'll be back for more action from the Tostiasti Spumani Empire Nationals when we return to Leicester, New York.
There are several categories of competition in drag racing that you'll find only at International Hot Rod Association events. But outside of the professional category, certainly the most innovative has got to be factory-modified Eliminator. Late-model Detroit machines with small block V8 and V6 engines racing heads up, no handicap starts, first one to the finish line wins. In a unique situation, it's the only sportsman class that races under professional-type rules. This is the machine that won the 1989 factory-modified World Championship. Virginian Danny Estep drove this Oldsmobile Forenza to the #1 position at the end of the season in the World Championship point standings. But more importantly, Danny Estep did it driving not just this machine, but a 990 Super Rod Camaro at the same time to the #4 spot in the world in that category. This year he has decided to concentrate strictly on campaigning this 10,000 RPM Oldsmobile Forenza. And this is the deciding factor that differs the factory modifieds from pro stocks. A small block GM power plant, by far the V8s are more common than the V6s, displacing usually no more than about 300 cubic inches. Now, these cars are restricted to one 4-barrel carburetor, these little tiny V8 engines, but still they run in the low 8-second zone at over 160 miles per hour. And Danny Estep made the logical progression from a breakout class to this new heads-up division. After you had run the two different cars in 1989, you decided to concentrate just on one this year. Was it just getting ridiculous? You and your brothers and cousins are all involved in this. It had to be pretty tough work.
Yeah, just switching from one car to the other, running backwards and forwards, and them coming and pick me up on the three-wheeler top end, try to get me back to stage lane in time. And it just got a lot, hectic, really, to try to do both cars.
In this category, you can use either an automatic transmission or a manual, a 4-speed or a 5-speed transmission. You've always stuck by manual transmissions. Is that a benefit in this class?
I believe it is. Everybody else is, sliding over to it. The automatics really, they get a 300-pound weight advantage, but, it's not worth it. It's still, you go faster with a 5-speed and pack the 300 pounds.
It's a lot more work in there, though.
Yeah, a lot more work. You got to keep adjusting clutches and fixing parts.
The rules in this category are pretty simple. The car has to weigh 8 pounds for every single cubic inch of engine displacement. Case in point, 270 cubic inch engine here in Estep's car. The car has to weigh about 2,160 pounds. But these minuscule V8 and V6 engines are twisted to 12,000 RPM on some of their quarter-mile runs. There's no sound like that of a factory-modified going down the track in all of drag racing. But I'll tell you, even though Danny Estep has a lot of experience with a manual transmission and small block engine, you don't have to be an old pro to play this game well. This incredible new Chevy Beretta, the Ohio Valley Raceway Special of the Huff family, is indeed the latest winner in the factory-modified National Event Tour in 1990. This machine definitely did some damage at the recent Tosti Spumani Gateway Nationals in St. Louis, but the big surprise was the driver who took it to the winner's circle. 19-year-old Billy Huff took on the best this class had to offer and beat him to death. Billy, you're used to a 2-speed automatic transmission before that race. You put in a 5-speed and things changed completely. What was the deal?
Well, we came back from Bristol. We wouldn't have any luck with the automatic, so we decided to trash the automatic and try this 5-speed.
Well, the thing has picked up literally 4 or 5 hundredths of a second every run it's made. And here at the Empire Nationals, it ran the quickest run of the year since Darlington. That's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, it does.
Now, the objective of this machine is obviously to keep it running until you're the first under 8.4 seconds, the current national record, 8:40. Do you think the car has the potential?
Yeah, we hope to do it this morning, but a slick track kept us out of it.
Well, maybe in eliminations. I should point out that your father drove this car for years, and now all of a sudden you're in the driver's seat and you take it to a national event win. What's going to happen? Is the old man coming back?
No, I'm going to keep him out of it.
You keep running numbers like that and taking national event wins, and you will. Factory Modified keeps getting more and more popular. And like I said, you won't see these cars anywhere else in drag racing except at IHRA national events. It's just another indication of the innovation taking place at IHRA drag racing.
Well, let's take a look at the final for the Baby Pro Stocks or Factory Modifieds. It was Ian Landis and Carol Smoot. And Smoot had some problems right off the line there as he redlighted and broke. Ian Landis took the victory with an 8:59 at 155 miles per hour in the darkness. Well, let's take a look at the other sportsman results. Top sportsman was won by Baltimore, Maryland's Buddy McGowan. We mentioned earlier Ricky Smith got that ARP Quick 8. Factory Modified, of course, was Ian Landis, as we just saw. Modified went to Danny Stanton. Quick Rod went to the George Dickel-sponsored dragster of Gordon Prevette. Super Rod was picked up by Rick Sears in his Nova. Hot Rod went once again to Jim Dottis. Super Stock to the 6-cylinder Joe Covert. The Stock Eliminator went to Gary Bowers.
The Pro Stock pits are always a flurry of activity, but right now, while Tim Neighbors and his father Calvin check and clean the clutch plates for the semifinal round of Pro Stock Eliminator, the action is simultaneous, because right next to him in the pits is West Virginia's Doug Kirk, the 2-time national event winner, who uses a Neighbors Automotive-built engine. These teams are both at the exact same time cleaning and adjusting clutches. The objective in this round of Pro Stock to go quicker than Ricky Smith's 729.
Don't forget, you can win a totally restored 1957 Chevy Bel Air. Look for the IHRA race word and put it on a postcard to Box 3029, Bristol, Tennessee, 37625. The secret word coming up later in the show. But right now, we've got to get to semifinal action. Pro Stock, Top Fuel, Funny Car, all coming your way. Stay right there. Back at New York International Raceway Park and the International Hot Rod Association Tostiasti Spumati Empire Nationals. Bob Barsha, Ted Jones, and Brett Kepner, glad to be with you on what has turned into a lovely afternoon here in upstate New York. We are ready for semifinal action, and we will begin with Pro Stock. Our first matchup will be Tommy Mooney, the undisputed dominator in the class with 2 event victories thus far, going up against Doug Kirk.
Kirk running a 689 cubic inch mountain motor in his Chevrolet, but that's not really a mountain motor by today's standards. A mountain motor by today's standards is one like Tommy Mooney has. That's 742 cubic inches of Oldsmobile power.
Little impromptu ventilation there for Doug Kirk. That's why they call these cars door slammers. A dry hop for Tommy Mooney, seeking his 3rd final round appearance in 4 races thus far this year. Once he's gotten to the finals, he has not been beaten. There is Doug Kirk looking for his first final.
Kirk ran a 738 in the most previous round. Mooney ran a 735. So Mooney has a slight edge right here.
Both cars away cleanly. Mooney with a little wheel hop there as he shifts gears. Side by side, great race, but it's Mooney at the finish.
Tommy Mooney picking up an easy victory, 734 as he actually sped up just a little bit, 188.20 miles per hour. He's into the final one more time.
Here's another look at the Williford Farms Pontiac of Tommy Mooney, who just gets a car length at the very finish and then talked with Brett.
And I was getting scared. Harold, he was closing in on me fast. What I got?
734, a 742 for Kirk, and he left on you. He made it close.
Well, I know Ricky, you know, he's running good, but should I just give it my best shot? That's all we can do.
We'll see what he runs, and you'll give it your best shot, I know. We'll see you there.
That's it.
And so North Carolina will be represented in one half of the final. Let's see whether this man from King, North Carolina, Ricky Smith, can make it an all North Carolina final.
Well, you can tell down on top end, Tommy Mooney was standing trying to see all the way back up 5,000 feet to this point at the starting line because he's very concerned with what Ricky Smith does. He knows that Ricky could conceivably still catch him this year in that points chase.
But he's going to have to knock off this man, Tim Neighbors from Lawrenceville, Georgia, who beat the fast runner of the meet, Billy Ewing, in the quarterfinals, and now he'll go up against the 5-time world champion. A grudge match between the number 1 and number 2 men in points in the '89 season.
Ricky has a psych job on Neighbors. He ran a 729 the most previous round. Neighbors only ran a 737.
Oh, but Neighbors gets the whole shot. He lays the line job on the 5-time world champion. He's got a fender on him and holds it to the end.
Ricky Smith turned in a great 729, but all for naught with a 556 reaction. Timmy Neighbors had a 478.
Well, buddy, you have had one heck of a day, but you have just done the impossible. Your 736 beat Mr. Holeshot himself, who ran 729.
I knew he was right there all the way down. I had to leave to beat him. And I just
14 thousandths in the lights.
I had to be. I knew I had to do something to get there before he did.
There are not many people on this planet who can say they've hole-shot Ricky Smith by any margin, but you just got it.
That was just luck. I mean, he's good. He's hard to beat.
Well, Neighbors has climbed one mountain in Ricky Smith. He's got a bigger one ahead of him, though. Tommy Mooney has never lost in a final. He's going into his 3rd this year. We move on now to semifinal action in Nitro Funny Cars. And our first matchup will be Richard Hartman, coming back with the Ray Bestos Pontiac, going up against the Cinderella story of the meet thus far, D.A. Santucci.
Well, a Cinderella story indeed. Bob Santucci shouldn't even be here. He turned in a 599, which is not that impressive against Jerry Caminito in the first round. But Caminito had problems, lifted a blower, slowed to a 642, and that's drag racing.
Hartman, the young driver from California, in the seat offered by Nitro Nick Bonafanti. Coming back, he has missed 2 national events after burning the car to the ground in Bristol, Tennessee. Santucci was on the bubble when the rain struck on Saturday night during the Nichols Night of Fire, so he got into the field while faster cars waited behind him.
You can bet Dominic Santucci was probably driving a funny car before Richard Hartman had his driver's license.
A 30-year career for the man in the left lane, D.A. Santucci, hoping to make his first Nitro Funny Car final. They're away cleanly. Nice, even start. Hazing the tires in the right lane. Hartman keeps his foot in it, but he lost precious ground, and Santucci moves on.
Santucci is into the final. What a Cinderella story. A 568, 262, and that's the story right there. Richard Hartman up in smoke at mid-track. Santucci drove it right on through the lights.
I need to move, buddy. You need to move. You did it. Oh, excuse me, Brett. Excuse me. Excuse me.
It's okay. You've been...
That one... Brett, they didn't give me that one. I'm going to say it now. Jerry gave me the other one. But, Brett, I earned that.
I grant you that you've been winning races since 1968. But look at it this way. A 568 equals the quickest run of the day, especially against the man who ran it. But 262 miles an hour.
Great.
This thing is still running big speed, and that's a new track speed record.
That's great. Oh, it is? All right. I'm tickled pink. Let me say this. I want to put a special thanks to the Kendall people. You know, I might not go too far next round, but we're going to try it. But I got to thank my people at Andy Mowry up there at Kendall for all they've done for us. My super gang here is all family affair. And, Brett, if I win this, I'm going to buy.
Well, when a man spends more than 20 years in funny cars, 30 years in drag racing, I guess he deserves a final every now and then. Now, here's our other matchup. It'll be Tom Hoover in the Showtime Nitro Funny Car going up against Chuck Etchells.
Well, you can bet Etchells, who is really making a charge on the points, number 2 in the points, would like to stop D.A. Santucci, who is upset-minded. But first he has to get past Tom Hoover, and that could be no easy task. Hoover's a very consistent runner and has a lot more experience than Chuck Etchells does behind the wheel of one of these floppers.
And remember, Hoover beat Doc Holliday in the first round. Holliday, the number 1 man in points, lost that position to Etchells. Etchells gets out quickly. Hoover needs to win to get his man Holliday back up front, but it won't happen.
Oh, it was Etchells wire-to-wire, a 568, 258 miles per hour. Etchells is into the final against upset-minded Santucci.
And the fans love it. By 5/1000ths of a second, D.A. Santucci will march on with lane choice against Chuck Etchells in the final. But we've got semifinal action in Top Fuel coming up now, where we will see Eddie the Thrill Hill in the bright yellow rail going up against Diesel John Carey.
John Carey cranked out a 529 in the most previous round. Eddie Hill had a 525. And let's take a look one more time at something like John Carey might see with his in-car camera.
Or you might see if you were a bug plastered against the bottom of that wing, standing more than 8 feet above the ground.
Well, they're having some last-minute adjustments. Buzzy Carter looking down inside there at the clutch can on Eddie Hill's car. Carey, meanwhile, being motioned up to the starting line area. Looks like that car's 3 miles long, doesn't it?
That's right, Ted. And keep in mind, with so little rubber on this track, lining up directly over those 2 streaks of rubber laid down during the burnout is absolutely critical here at the Empire National. Carey in the near lane. Hill in the far lane. Great start for both cars. Spoiling the hides in the near lane is Carey, but he keeps his foot in it. It won't be enough. It's Eddie Hill.
Eddie Hill with a 529, 263.15 miles per hour. This sets up one half of what could be a great final leg. Hill is on a roll. Let's take a look at it one more time as you see Carey going up in smoke, and that's really the entire story.
As always, the happy crew. Had you set it up to run another 20, or were you looking for more?
We were looking for more than that. We actually stepped on it a little bit, so if it softened up, that was not a planned maneuver.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the other half then.
Yeah, really. I hope Snowman slows down a little.
All Texas final, huh?
Oh, I hope so. Won't that be neat?
We'll see you there.
All right, see you. Thank you.
Baby, you look so smart.
Eddie Hill's wife, Ursi, a big part of her crew wherever he goes. Now let's see if we'll get that All-Texas final. Here is the man who has led this class all weekend long, put a 1/10 of a second on everybody in qualifying, and has been unstoppable. This is Gene, the Snowman Snow. He'll be going up against Paul Smith. There is Smith. His boss, Chuck Etchells, is in the Nitro Funny Car final. Let's see if Smith can make it a team sweep.
Well, Smith needs to find exactly 0.08 of a second someplace. He ran a 5:30 in the most previous round. Snow slowed, and I I say slowed to a 5:22 because, remember, he qualified with a 5:19.
The right lane contains Gene Snow, and it has been the faster all the way through our eliminations. And once again, we have tire smoke in the left lane. Paul Smith is out of it. Gene Snow will make it an all-Texas final.
Oh, look at that. 5:12. Are you believing that? 5.12, 269 miles per hour.
And there goes the happy crew as the Snowman is setting a new standard here at the Empire Nationals.
Well, Smith had actually hopped this thing up trying to find horsepower naturally. As soon as he came off the pad, he went up and spoke just too much horsepower. He overpowered the track.
For as many years as we've been watching you race, you always manage to come in and unload one every once in a while. 5:12, 269 miles an hour, and that tells me you still didn't drive it out the back.
Well, that's about all it'll do mile an hour. It's not 3 ET maybe, but that's about all it'll do mile an hour. We're really pleased that it kept hooked up. There were some cars got loose and we were worried, but it worked.
Paul Smith went into a burnout in the other lane against you. But did you really think this place would hold a 5:12? That's the quickest run in a year in IHRA racing.
I know it. I really didn't expect it, but if you look at the track, it's just getting blacker and blacker, more and more rubber. It's looking super.
This place is going to be quick, but it's an all-Texas final, something we haven't seen in a while. What's going to happen?
Well, I don't know. That's my best friends, I suppose, in racing, and we're going to both let it all hang out. You can be sure of that.
And he will let it hang out from the lane of his choice, will Gene Snow. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't take that left pit side lane. We'll find out when we return to final round action at the IHRA Tosti Spumati Empire Nationals. Welcome back to Leicester, New York, where the shadows have grown long after morning showers moved back the start of final eliminations by about 4 hours. We will go under the lights for final round action in our pro categories. First up will be Pro Stocks. And what an opportunity for this man, Tommy Mooney, from Shelby, North Carolina, who has not been beaten in 2 final round appearances this year. He could really put a stranglehold on the Pro Stock World Championship standings with a victory here. He'll be going up against Tim Neighbors, the number 6 qualifier in Mooney, the number 4 qualifier in Neighbors.
Well, you can bet that Ricky Smith is somewhere around the starting line area watching this, because if Tommy Mooney can pick up his 3rd victory this year, it may be impossible for Ricky to ever catch him, and Ricky will be absolutely crushed as the king will take a fall.
Tim Neighbors with 689 cubic inches of Chevy power in the far lane. He will be up against 742 cubes of Pontiac. Now, there's action in Neighbors' lane. The parachute has fallen out of the car.
The parachute is lying on the ground. Neighbors doesn't know it. Watch the surprise when all of a sudden, boom, somebody threw out the anchor. What's wrong with this car anyway? Must have burned a clutch up. Oh, tough break for Tim Neighbors. Victory for Tommy Mooney. He is still undefeated in finals in 1990. Now here's a replay in real time, and as you can see, the chute just dumped out on the ground. It's like dragging a boat anchor. Neighbors never had a chance.
Well, Tommy, a strange way to win a drag race. 734 to 187. Tim Neighbors' parachute fell off right off the starting line.
Well, I hate it for Tim and Calvin and them. Them's good guys, man, but boy, we fought this thing all weekend long. I got to thank Sonny's, I got to thank the Williford's, the oil treatment, Allison, all the people that's helped us. You know, Ricky's helped me a bunch on my clutch this weekend. Man, I can't thank him enough.
I'll tell you, big boost in the points battle.
I need it. I was feeling bad. I swear I was.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
And you can bet your buddy Ricky Smith is going to be coming back strong this year. Now in Nitro Funny Car from the tightest qualified field in IHRA history, just 243 one-thousandths of a second from first to last, we have the final 2. D.A. Santucci against Chuck Etchell under the moonlight here in Leicester, New York.
And as we had pointed out just a few minutes ago, they both ran identical 568 in the semifinal round to get into this final. So this is literally either guy's drag race.
Now here's something peculiar. Santucci had lane choice, but he chose the near lane. That far lane has produced virtually all of our winners. D.A. must think he knows something.
Well, go with the experience. D.A. Santucci's been doing it a long time.
They are away with flames belching from the headers side by side. Now Etchell shuts off. Santucci takes it.
D.A. Santucci has done it. He's upset Etchell's. Look at that. 565, 263 miles per hour. And Etchell's actually gave it to him. He shut it down.
Brett, I'm so happy. I'm over emotioned here tonight. But let me and Barb, my chief coordinator, put a special thanks to these people, these Yellow Page crew of mine. I'm serious. We got Bill Price, my brother Paul, Jerry, Mom, Dad, D.A. Jr., Doug Turner. The whole gang's here. I'm serious. Without that, we couldn't have done it. Could we? You did it, buddy. We did it. Yes, sir. All right.
Well, Brett couldn't get a word into that interview edgewise, and who needs it? Great victory for D.A. Santucci. Let's see what we get now out of our all-Texas matchup in Top Fuel. You just met Eddie the Thrill Hill. Here comes the snowman, Gene Snow.
Well, the thing bearing on Hill's mind right now has to be that ET in the most previous round. Snow went a 5:19 to qualify, and he just got through lying down a 5:12. Hill hasn't been into the teens all weekend.
And now, compounding the problems these drivers have had with the racetrack, they must line up in the darkness here in Leicester, New York. Our finals have been pushed back into the darkness by the weather, but this should be a great one. Eddie Hill, first man under 5 seconds in Top Fuel history, and next to him, another member of that elite 4-second club in Gene Snow.
Well, Gene the Snowman Snow has a little bit more experience in these cars than Eddie Hill does, and so I'm going to bank just a little bit on Snow. That plus the fact that he's won 2 IHRA World Championships.
And he has also taken that left hand, that far lane, and molten metal comes out of the headers, but Gene Snow's got it.
Look at the ET, a 5.18, 266.41, another team time for Snow.
And he hurt the engine in the process. Let's hear from him.
Being back and winning with the IHRA, it really makes me very happy. We haven't been able to make some of the races and haven't done very good, but we're really pleased and hope we can win this championship. Eddie's a good competitor. I'm too bad he smoked the tires. You know, we'd had a good race. We had a good one anyway.
Ah, you had a good weekend, Gene. Top qualifier, top speed of the meet, quick ET, the victory with 2 new track records. I call that a snow job. Under a late summer moon in Leicester, New York, the IHRA Tosti Spumani Empire Nationals have come to a close. Ted, let's take a look at the points.
Well, in the Pro Stock action, Tommy Mooney has taken a commanding lead with the victory here today over Harold Denton, who's in second place. In Nitro Funny Car, Chuck Edgels takes the lead with 2,000 points above Doc Holliday. Richard Holcomb barely in the lead as John Kerry almost closed it to tie him in Top Fuel.
Now it's time for our IHRA secret race word. Write it down and put it on a postcard to us. And you, too, can win a completely restored 1957 Chevy Bel Air. An absolutely cherry piece put together by Dan Chuck Manufacturing in California. There is the car on the right, looking very much like Tom McEwen's fabled Nitro Funny Car. Our secret word from the Empire Nationals should be sent to IHRA Race Word Box 3029, Bristol, Tennessee 37625. And the secret word, or in this case words, are drag review. Write drag review on a postcard and send it to us. Our coverage of the Empire Nationals has been brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Aged, with that clean, crisp taste, this Bud's for you. Our next televised event on the IHRA Trail will be the Soft Seal Tosti Spumani Eastern Nationals as the IHRA returns to Atco Raceway in New Jersey. I'm Bob Barsha for Ted Jones and Brett Kepner. Thanks for being with us from the Empire Nationals. We'll leave you with a look at the jet car. So long, everybody.